Hello, today I am going to be showing you guys how to cover a countertop with resin. As you can see, this is going to be my surface. So this is a plywood top. Originally I had planned to just use it, and I stained it and then covered it with varnish, but it just does not hold the water stains very well. So plan 2 is to cover it with resin. I did prepare the surface. It's been sanded, and then when the sink was pulled off, it removed some of the wood, so the wood filler is drying, so that is why you kind of see that patchy surface. But you do need to prepare your surface when using resin, so your countertop will need to be sanded. If it's plywood, if it is for mica, whatever you're covering, you will need to scratch it up so that the resin has something to grab. Some of the other materials we're going to be using, this is the tape. It's used generally to seal your vents and can be found like at Home Depot or Lowe's in that section. This will be used to dam the spot so that the resin doesn't go all over the floor. Silicone caulk. It does need to be 100% silicone if you're using with resin. This way the resin won't stick and you can pull it off. My resin today is going to be Pro Marine. I like this resin because it really creates a nice hard surface. You don't feel any of that tacky surface, which some resins kind of will be more tacky. This one though will be nice and hard. And tip though, it does need to be warm when you're using this, or it's just a whole bunch of problems if it's not nice and warm outside. And then to color my resin, I'm using mica powder. These are the colors. I'm using a blue, a dark brown, kind of a rust color, and then maybe silver, but I'm not sure yet about that one. I'm gonna see how that goes. All right. Okay, so I cut a piece of my aluminum tape, and I'm not gonna pull this all the way off. I'm going to kind of pull it to a halfway point because the top part of this I'm going to fold over. That's the part that's going to create the dam. You don't want the sticky surface on the dam or it's going to stick to the resin. You want that nice metallic side. So this is kind of a pain to get off, and you kind of have to just work your way down because the tape is going to rip if you are too excited. All right. Some people are able to pull a larger piece of tape. I am not. It gets too much for me. So I'm just gonna do this halfway a little bit, and then we will just make some seals for the pieces that come together. All right. So you just kind of bend it over and smooth it down. And just do this the whole way. And it's gonna be kind of get stuck on you a little bit. Just kind of keep working at it. That's another reason why I don't like the tape to be too long, because this part gets messed up pretty easy. So you gotta be kind of patient. Go. All right, so then once you're ready to do that, that's ready to go on your surface, and there you go. We'll pull the rest of that off, and that sticky part will go on the side of your project, and this part right here is going to create the dam. Okay, so I've run into the first problem with this project, and that is the aluminum tape does not stick well to the rough sides. So like any side like that, you're gonna have a problem with the aluminum tape. It sticks beautifully to surfaces like this, but not so much the rough ones. So my solution for now, and we will see if it works, is just to stick it on there. I've used some masking tape. Let's see if you can see that. Just to kind of hold it into place. Now this isn't gonna work completely for the resin because the resin's just gonna go through the seam, and it's just gonna like pull that masking tape right off and go onto the floor. So my second part of the solution is using my silicone. I'm going to take it and I'm just going to create a line between the tape and the surface the whole way around. And I'm going to hope that that works. If it doesn't work, then this video will never see the light of YouTube, and you'll never know it didn't happen. So if you're seeing this video, it worked. Okay. So, and then the second thing I need to do is I need to put any kind of joining tape like this. I need to seal that. So I just take another small piece of this aluminum tape and you just kind of seal those seams. Ta-da! Oops. Sorry. It's hard to hold a camera and do at the same time. I need like 5 hands and like more than 2 eyes. Okay. So now you see that that is kind of sealed so that the resin's not going to just like slip in there. Okay. All right. All right, so I'm going to go and I'm going to put my silicone around there and then I'll be back. Okay, so everything now is taped and silicone has been placed all around the sealed openings. You do want to make sure that you kind of smooth the silicone when you put it on there, so that it's not so lumpy looking. Otherwise the resin will just kind of form around it and then you'll have like lumpy resin edges when you pull it off. That has happened to me before, so helpful hint. Make sure you get like all, like this little edge here, you'll make sure the silicone is there too, or it'll leak out there. Resin is going to go anywhere it can find a hole, so just make sure all your surfaces are sealed really good. I'll need to let the silicone dry for at least 30 minutes. That's what the package says, but it depends on how warm it is in your area. It can take longer, so just kind of, you know, feel of it. It says it can take up to 8 hours, so just be aware of that. And there you go. So I'm going to let this dry, and then the next step is the fun part, and that's getting the resin ready. Okay, so the silicone is now dry, and I am ready to start mixing the epoxy. I've got some little measuring cups here for the 2 parts. It's pretty important that these be equal parts or it will never cure. As you can see, the Pro Marine is a lot thicker than a lot of other resins, so it kind of takes a while to get this one out. Its counterpart is actually much more liquid, but this one kind of takes a while. Okay. Oops. And sometimes I overdo it because of that. I'm gonna put a little bit back. Okay, that's one of the things I don't necessarily love about this epoxy, is that how thick this one is. But like I said, it cures a lot harder, which is what I want for my countertop. So okay. And we're going to pour it all together. I actually had already put a little bit already in here because this is going to be our base color, so it's going to need to cover a lot more of the space. Also, when you're working, make sure you use protective gloves. You really should use a respirator as well. I'm not doing that right now, but it's good practice because this does have toxic fumes. So you really should do as I say, not as I do. Okay, trying to get all that out. Got most of it out. All right, so I like to use, with these bigger things, a silicone spatula. I can reuse it. After it dries on it, I can just pull it off of the silicone. Also this plastic container here, same thing. Once this resin dries, I'm able to just kind of pour it out of there, and then that way I can reuse it and not just keep throwing things away. And I just kind of have to mix it up so that all of it is mixed together. Ooh, I'm shaking the camera, sorry. Once it is good and mixed, I'm going to add the color to it. My base color is going to be kind of this chocolate brown. Let me get it out here. Stuff here. It's called Chocolate Kiss by, I think it's Hague Life. I think that's how you pronounce it. I got it on Amazon. You don't need a whole lot. So what I like to do is put just a little bit in there and then mix it and kind of look at how opaque it is, and if I want it more, I can always add more to it. Sometimes if you put too much of the stuff in it, it makes the resin get really sticky faster than you want it to be. Ooh, look at that beautiful chocolate brown. Doesn't that look yummy? It's like a cake. Love it. Okay. See, that's still kind of thin, so I'll add some more. You can tell by looking at it, see how thin that is when you pour it down. So this is quite a bit of resin, so it's going to take more color, but like I said, it's better to add more than to have too much and not be able to take it out. On my smaller projects, when I work on a canvas, I normally don't pour this much of one color. Sometimes with bigger canvases, but make sure that gets in there real good. Okay, now you can see it's much more opaque when you're looking at it, which is what I want. Okay. Okay, so here we go. I moved some of the stuff around with a hair dryer just to get a little bit more movement. Final step before kind of just letting it sit for a while is using a heat gun. Some people use a torch, but I prefer a heat gun. It's just, there's no live fire and it's pretty simple. You just turn it on And just kind of go through here. This is to pop any air bubbles so that you don't have that pop up on you. I don't know if you can see it on the video, but a lot of little tiny air bubbles come up when you do this. There you go. Hello, okay, it's been overnight and my resin is now cured. So I can touch it. Isn't that wonderful? One of the reasons I use the mica pigments for this project is because it gives me this lovely kind of separation. It gives you a lot of depth, like in this area here, here. I have found that paint doesn't give you that kind of depth, but if that is what you are wanting, then use paint instead of the mica powder. But as you can see, it's complete. One of the things I didn't show you was pulling off the tape. I did that about 3 hours into the curing process. The reason why I do that while it's still wet and tacky is because I wanted to get this lovely line here. I didn't want it to be so bumpy, and it would have been if I had left that on with the silicone, even though I really like worked on flattening out that silicone so it was a straighter edge. It still would have been lumpy. Because I did wait for that on the sink part, because that part doesn't matter to me because it's going to be covered by a sink. And as you can see, it's just kind of, it's just not very smooth. If you want more work, you can, like, you know, get a saw or a sander and kind of pull that off, and then you have to work on polishing it. And I just didn't want all that work. So anyway, so that's why I did that. It is a very laborious task. You're going to get resin all kind of like all over you. So wear your gloves, use a straight razor to kind of help pull it off, but it takes a while and it's a big mess. So anyway, that's it. If you want to see the total finished project with the sink installed and everything, I'm going to be posting pictures on my Instagram account. You can follow me at Brenna M. McGee. Until then, thanks so much for watching.